So welcome to Stories of the Awakening. My name is Sarah Anne Dordel. I'm your hostess for today, and I'm here with Pia, who's one of our leaders for Awakening Anonymous. Thank you again, Pia, for being here and for helping moderate the chat room.
You're welcome.
So I'm the founder of Awakening Anonymous, which is a spiritual awakening support group that welcomes all paths and upholds an environment free of judgment, dogma, and hierarchy. And today we are going to be looking at a story of the awakening because I feel that stories really help to raise awareness about this phenomenon called the awakening that many of us are experiencing but have yet to fully understand. So when we talk about the awakening, different terms come to different people's minds based upon their own experience and awareness. I mean, there's so many words we can look at. Ascension, the shift, spiritual world, of course, kundalini and different chakra activations, opening up to mediumship, psychic development, higher dimensions, lightworkers, empaths, starseeds, shamanic awakening, and so much more. It's just such a huge topic. So that's why we're here today, to look at one of the topics in this awakening, actually many topics. And of course, some awakening people experience subtle symptoms while others may have a dramatic experience and frankly a frightening awakening process. And this internal shift when one starts to wake up is indeed a wake-up call. And while it is a beautiful opportunity for healing, expanded awareness, of course, a greater capacity to connect at the heart and soul level, awakening often brings much confusion, fear, and even physical challenges. So indeed, the awakening is awe-inspiring, but oftentimes it can be awful, hence the term dark night of the soul. And I know we look at that a lot in our support meetings. So in Awakening Anonymous, we believe that there's no right nor wrong way to walk the awakening path. And we believe that the greatest support comes from sharing our stories and the wisdom gained through living the experience. So today, we are here to learn from someone who has definitely lived her experience and has a lot of wisdom to share. So with that, I'd like to welcome our featured guest for today, Corinne Lebrun. I'm excited.
Me too. I'm really excited to share what's, where my journey where it began and where it's taken me. And today's actually a really special day for me because it's the first day after my book launch yesterday. And I really feel like, I've always been so afraid to be in the world and show people who I really truly am with all these crazy stories of, spiritual experiences and mysticism. And I hid it for a long time. Mm-hmm. So to actually take the leap and be out in the world and go, okay, well, here's my book where I talk about all this is, it's empowering and terrifying at the same time.
Well, this is part of becoming a spiritual, a badass spiritual warrior, right? Which is the title of your talk today.
Yes,
so it's just, it's fascinating how things come together at the perfect time. I can't wait to go through your story and then talk about the book and all the ways that you're supporting people through the awakening. So what I was thinking, Corinne, is, just to get this out of the way, I'm going to read your formal bio.
Okay.
And then I'll give an introduction to why I chose you to share your story today. And then we'll get into the storytelling. Does that sound good?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. Beautiful. Everybody, we're here today with Corinne Lebrun, who developed her love of the divine as a very young child, learning from nature and the dream world to listen to the deep voices of her soul. At the age of 8, she began exploring the essence of the world through poetry and deepening her understanding later with the guidance of spiritual teachers, traveling across the globe to sacred places and experiencing ever-expanded states of kundalini and divine bliss. She has grounded these experiences through the academic study of theoretical physics, anthropology, transpersonal psychology, metaphysics, religion, and social psychology. Corinne bridges the world of the magical, which is unseen, with the everyday world through teaching, expansion of the connection with your soul. She seeks to embody a balance between the seen and the unseen, the rational and the magical, and she was also featured in the film Awakening the Goddess, a documentary on Kundalini awakenings. And she's also a certified Kundalini yoga teacher, has a master's degree in psychology, and is a management consultant. So a lot is going on here with Corinne, and you can learn about her at wilddivinebliss.org. And that's a perfect way for me to connect my excitement in bringing your story forward, because like you know, I had this very intense Kundalini experience, but different. So we connect on that level, but also I'm a business consultant, and I'm having to merge my worlds here. And I just love how you have this scientific mind and you're process oriented, and that really helps for you to be relatable to a lot of people. And you also helped to reconnect me with a wonderful organization that really studies the phenomena of Kundalini and awakening in a very scientific way, which is the Emerging Sciences Foundation. So I'm so grateful for that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, they're an extraordinary organization. And I found them after I did a lot of soul searching, after I called the second Kundalini expansion, because I was looking for people who really understood like what's really going on here with Kundalini and looking at it from a scientific perspective. So that's something that, you know, everyone on the webinar, if you look at their website later on, there's actually I really want to send people a link later to where to go on their website to sign up for, it's a scientific study called Brilliano.
Yep.
And because they ask a lot of questions and they come back with like, this is what's going to work for you. And it's free. It's a really great resource.
Yeah, I'll see if I can pull that up too. We'll get that to everybody if we're not able to actually during this event, because it's a wonderful resource. It's a wonderful resource. So,
yeah, it really is. So
let's get into the storytelling.
Okay, the beginning, where did it all begin for me? And I have to say, you know, it really all began with one of the very first dreams I remember having. And that is, I had a dream that I could put my hands through the wall. And I thought, well, everything's made out of these little dots, so why can't I put my hand through the wall in when I'm awake? And I was a little kid when I was dreaming this stuff. And I used to have these crazy dreams about physics and tesseracts and things about the future. And I would sit up in my bed at night, and I remember actually my body was lying down, but I would sit up and I would watch what was happening everywhere. And I remember telling people about it and be like, oh, no, you're just dreaming. That's not really happening. But I remember sitting every single night and going, oh, I think I can see what's happening. And I would know, like what's happening in the living room, like what's happening. It's like different places. And this is all before I was 6 years old. So I was a very weird child.
But that's something many of us can relate to.
I'm sure. I know. And then when I was a teenager, but during all this, like, oh, I thought there's so many things to talk about. I remember one of the experiences I had, it was a space between waking and dreaming. And I just had this draw to become one. I didn't know exactly what it meant, but I knew that I really wanted to feel like I was one with everything. And it really kind of like compelled me to figure out, like, what is this purple light I kept seeing? Like, what is this? What are these dreams that are other worlds I keep having? And as time progressed, when I was a teenager, I used to have dreams about the future, and even tapping into what I understand now as the Akashic record, with even seeing past historical events. This is all before the internet, all before these things, there was no other way for me to learn these things. And these things drove me to really understand, why am I experiencing this? Because I thought I was crazy. I really thought there's no possible way. And it drove me to learn about theoretical physics, because I wanted to learn, okay, why am I so weird? Like, why do I see the future? Why do I see these like blurbs of light around people? And like, why do I know when sometimes some relative, like there was a relative who passed on and I actually knew she was going to, because in my dream, my uncle who had already passed away had come to get her. And like, how do I know these things? This is impossible to know. I was very lucky to find a spiritual teacher. He liked to be called a spiritual guide, actually. And one of the most valuable things he taught me was to introspect, to find my answers. So he really taught me how to do that. And he banned me from reading books for a while. He's like, don't read anything spiritual. I want you to gain your knowledge from yourself. And he would do things like give me quotes like, I want you to contemplate when the wind meets the water. And I'd sit there and go, what does that mean? And so I would contemplate and write and think about these things, and, you know, started tracking also my more interdimensional experiences as well. So I had all that already going on when I was, you know, through a teenager, through my early 20s. And then I was drawn to world travel. And I have to say my first really large experience that was like a marked experience on my spiritual journey was my very first kundalini experience, so that I understood it was kundalini. I was actually in Greece at the temple of Asclepius, and there were all these little temples there, and one was the temple to Isis.
Oh, and, of course.
And that's an Egyptian goddess. What she's doing in Greece, you know, they all would, you know, travel and talk to each other. And I sat there and I said, I'm going to meditate here. And it was in the ruins. And I just sat there, and next thing you know, it was like a fire hose of energy moved through me. But this fire hose of energy was the best way I can describe it. And even as I'm thinking about it, that feeling like comes back. It is the impulse of creation. It is that passion of, like, you know, when you do like the hell yeah, you know, it's like that feeling of the burst that comes before the creation. It was before, it's like the inspiration before things expand. And that literally was running through me. And I was like, oh my God, I like never want this to end. And I was like, you know, just rocking in it. And it's funny, the person I was with, he understood what kundalini experiences were. And he's like, oh, you just had a kundalini experience. And I'm like, is that what that was? Mm-hmm. And I knew at that point that somehow this was going to be a very important piece of my life to integrate and embody that energy. And it's like sort of like being on a hunt to integrate that ever since. And it didn't necessarily expand my psyche, but the things that happened afterwards in retrospect, now me understanding more about Kundalini awakenings, I can see like why I got far more emotionally sensitive after that. You know, why I ended up taking on other people's energies, why even, you know, when I would go sit on a bus, I'd be like, oh my God, I know what the person in front of me like was feeling, and I know exactly what was going on for them. I really don't want to know this stuff. Now, what do I do? So that actually led me to go to the Berkeley Psychic School and do their curriculum so I could learn how not to be psychic, because I really wanted to learn how to turn it off. And some of those tools they're very valuable, but it still left me feeling very porous over time. Mm-hmm. So that was like the very first one that got me thinking, wow, there's actually really something else here. So, you know, years go by again with even experiences of, you know, feeling massively expanded. And then, you know, something would just set me off. I would be triggered. And then it's like everything would come crashing down. And all my connection to God, source, my synchronicities, everything would just be like, boop, it's gone. And now you are just a very reactive, like, human, just very super reactive, super sensitive. And I felt like I had failed God in all those times. There was one time, even before that massive Kundalini experience, that I felt so expanded, and I had like this like soft bliss energy moving through me that felt like silk, and I felt like I could, you know, like feel things from miles away, and then I got triggered and it was all removed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And those are, I say, some of the most like heart crushing times of my life when those things have happened, because I thought when you are on a spiritual journey that when you expand, you're supposed to stay there. I thought, well,
Right.
aren't you supposed to always be there?
Well, and we hear that a lot, Corinne, don't we? Just raise your
Yeah.
vibration, raise your vibration, raise your
Yeah.
vibration
Oh,
without
just
the
raise your vibration. Can't you just meditate these things away?
Yeah. That's a great, I'm really glad that you brought this up.
Yeah. So, yeah, that it was extremely painful for me personally, because like I really put my spiritual connection, like how much I value that. It's so intensely meaningful to me that when those times when that was removed, I mean, I really felt like I was doing something wrong, and it took a lot of time. That's one of the main things I learned, that it's a wave. Things come in waves. You will feel super connected, then you'll feel less connected. And the less hard I am on myself, the faster the connection comes back. It's a matter of permission.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that during those times, the best thing to do, and even in my psychology studies later, I was like, oh yeah, that actually makes sense, is those are the times you need to eat ice cream and you need to like watch your favorite movie and eat popcorn and don't meditate, but to really seek things out like the Emerging Sciences Foundation and look at it more academically and try to tie it all together. It was the experience I actually had in 2010. And I was practicing sending healing energy back and forth with a friend of mine. And, we're practicing it remotely as well. And I really think that focused energy of doing that is probably what inspired, I call it a kundalini upgrade. Because then all of a sudden one day I woke up and I had, my whole body felt electric.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt so good. It was so phenomenal. I'm like, oh my God, I feel electric. Oh my God, I feel like my intuition's back again, but tenfold. And I never forget, it's like I walked in a room that had this big crystal, and it was like, oh my God, I can actually feel this. I can feel the energy coming off of it. Whereas before on my path, I had always thought I was able to feel energy coming off of things. I was like, yeah, I think I could feel it, And there was part of me that could, but now it was palpable. Like it was like literally feeling things push on my skin.
Yes.
Yeah. And that I think was like the biggest piece to go, oh my God, I actually feel these things. I can feel other people's energy fields.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so extraordinary. But with that awakening, what ended up happening is I would go in and out of these literal bliss states. And the bliss itself is not an emotion. It's not like, oh, my life is awesome. It's like you literally feel like little molecules of like happy bliss are like moving through your bloodstream. Yeah.
Yes. It's a resonance for sure.
Yeah. And I felt those things, and how was I going to say? Like it felt so amazing. And I felt like that was transformative in itself as well. However, then I got triggered, and it was like, how can I be feeling so incredibly peaceful and want to hug everybody? Because basically it's like all of a sudden like the compassion gene got turned on, It's like felt super compassionate, just really want to hug everyone. And it was so beautiful and wonderful. But then like something would hit me like for my self-esteem, not feeling good enough, all those kinds of things come up. And then it would just be like, but then I felt like that bliss energy got turned to fire. It really felt like fire moving through my veins. And it was so uncomfortable. Yeah. And these things, it's really nice to meet people and find people that have similar experiences to that. It's because that fire feeling, like you feel like you've got your finger stuck in a light socket, and it is not comfortable.
No.
And
there's a lot of judgment around that too. As if
oh yeah,
I've felt like I've done something wrong, or I've had people treat me like well, you shouldn't have been so open. Well,
yeah, it's like, and you have like no idea what's going on. And I thought, God, there must be something wrong with me, because aren't I supposed to be getting enlightened now because I feel bliss state? You think like, what happened? I thought I'm supposed to always be like, tapped into everybody and, in a positive way. And I'm supposed to be loving and compassionate. And no, it's a lot more work. So what happened is any of my shortcomings, my faults, things I needed to work on then became that much more glaring. Because it's like, oh, now it's in my face. So I was like, okay, so I realized it's like the things I needed to try to work on, and even things that were from like, PTSD style experiences from childhood, other things that had happened in life. And I had to really seek out tools that would help me be able to release that, to release those things. And it's, life is a daily journey. It still is about that. It's like, oh, I'm really upset by this disproportionately to how I should really be feeling. So therefore, this must be something I need to work on. Yeah. So then I was telling a friend of mine about this, saying, I just feel all this electricity moving through me, and sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. And he said, you should try kundalini yoga, because that really helped me when I was going through that. And so there are a lot of different systems and things to do that help people. Like I heard of Dawn yoga, even regular yoga, Tai Chi, it just depends on what you resonate with. But for me personally, the kundalini yoga, like I went to the first class and I was like, oh my God, they get it. This is all about being in touch with your soul. And then also learning how to guard your energy field and even out the kundalini energy. So I found that a lot of the discomfort I was having is because the energy would get pooled in different areas of the meridians or different chakras, however system, works for you to look at it through. Mm-hmm. I found because I sometimes would literally feel like so much energy, like around my navel, my navel would start pulsing. Yep. Or around my heart chakra, and it would start pulsing. And I felt it in all these different places, but I can tell when it started pooling places that kind of felt good. But then I was like, I would, do some different types of kundalini yoga, and it would get evened out. Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, oh, I actually feel better now. I feel more stable. And yet I also still have all of my intuition available to me.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting thing to look at, is the harmonization of energies. When you were sharing about your different awakening experiences, you would reach this state of bliss, and then the you-know-what starts to hit the fan. It almost occurs to me, perhaps, the bliss state is actually the integration of the awakening. It's the upgraded level. And then what happens when we get to that new baseline is it's time for more activation. And I almost wonder sometimes, is the awakening the trauma? Is the awakening the bliss state? Because obviously these are things that are happening in stages as upgrades. And I don't know the answer to that, but I know that the harmonization and learning to be able to run the energy so that one feels more balanced creates this baseline state that then feels good, but then things get weird again. And just knowing that other people are going through that kind of cycle of evolution where there's this chaotic energy that doesn't feel good and causes a lot of yuckiness is just part of the process.
Yeah, exactly. It's, I've been trying to learn more about the bliss state, because it mystifies me. It's like, well, what exactly is that all about? And there are many different perspectives on it. One of the ones that for me that resonates well is I feel like when everything is in tune, everything is balanced, then sometimes it comes and gets me, but in a state that's more peaceful. It's like a peaceful bliss state where it literally is like, it almost feels like an angel coming to visit. And sometimes I wonder, maybe it's just an angel coming to visit, or is it my chakras are aligned? I actually really am not sure, but, but it really can feel that way. And And then I've seen other people talk about, sometimes the bliss state, they feel like it's, something you can get addicted to that is disorienting. I don't know. It's something I know there's an answer out there somewhere, but I also know that I'm grateful for when the bliss state comes, because then I feel like the peaceful bliss state comes, because then it's an open door, and I feel like I can show up more fully to life. And I think that maybe what we're trying to do is integrate that bliss state to the point where we are just super compassionate and loving towards others, because we are aligned in that state of being. But one thing I've learned with kundalini awakening and spiritual awakening is just when I think that, if I reach that point, that's going to be, enlightenment, or it's going to be all fixed, that there's so many more doorways to go through. And I feel like we're just like starting to touch the surface of what is our capacity as humans, and I think we're learning what they are. So, those are things I'm finding for myself, that my capacity to do things has accelerated and opened up. Like, actually, I was looking at your sheet here about, common symptoms of awakening, and one is the creative bursts. And I do go through those, and I have gone through those, and it's incredible, like those times of massive amounts of productivity. Like right now, it's like, got the book, the course, I just started an online website, I got 2 more courses in the making. It's like, that's one burst. In the past, I put together a whole album while I was working on my master's degree and launching a business. It's like, and being there for my son, because I was a single mom then. And it's like, I don't even know how I had time to sleep,
But there's no reason to turn it off if it's there,
Yeah, but it comes in waves. And there are times when I literally do absolutely nothing except maybe watch like movies, hang out with my boyfriend and son, and that's it. It's all we do for 6 months. Nothing, like complete inactivity. But it comes in spurts. And I think that is also part of this. We become, what am I trying to say? Like we're becoming we are all superhuman anyway. We're just learning to turn on the genes so we can realize we actually are superhuman.
Yes. Which is really interesting, because that brings to mind a spiral, and which feels like the energy of kundalini. And what you're talking about, it feels like such a good conversation to me, because having gone through a lot of the same experiences and sensations that you're describing, I know that there is a resonance that I chase that is more of what could be called an addictive tendency out there, and that's not really the bliss state that I know to be true. It's more like a high, if you will. It's like a high vibe feeling, whereas the kundalini bliss state to me feels like when you're in the center of the storm and you have a clear channel to completely merge with something much higher, and there's like, my mind is so clear. I know who I love, what I love, why I'm here. It's like I drop in and there's peace, which I often don't feel in life. I don't think many people who are sensitive, it's very rare to drop into the center and just be like, oh, I'm home. Like, and it does, nothing hurts, right? But this idea that we are always to be in that state, which I would love, is a little naive, right? When we think about being enlightened, I think honoring the cycles, just like the spiral of kundalini, is so important. And I'm glad to hear somebody say it, because there's some days where I just want to eat donuts and not talk to anybody and watch Netflix. And there's a lot of judgment around that.
See, that's, one of the things where it's like, I still struggle with that. But less than I used to, about, okay, if I'm spiritual, then I only meditate. I never swear. I never get angry. You know, it's like, I'm never going to eat bad things. I'm never going to drive through McDonald's, you know, it's like, but it's like, no, it's like, I'm a real human being and I'm here on this planet, everything in balance. And that's one thing that I really love hearing is like the middle road.
Yes.
And that is true spiritual integration, is to be fully human. It's like, we can't, I mean, it took me years to be happy and excited about being here on this planet. I mean, there was a time I was like, why did the aliens drop me off? I really felt that when I was a kid. I'm like, why am I here on this planet? At least if I'm here, why wasn't I at least born in India where like I could at least pursue a spiritual path? Or, you know, it's, I really, you know, it was, but now I think it kind of, I actually had not realized this, but I think it's through these whole experiences, let's call them massive spiritual expansion, because I really believe everybody's kundalini is there. And it's just a matter of how aware are you of subtle energies around you? Because is it something your brain has learned to translate into conscious thought? Okay. And that is something that happens when we start to awaken, is those neurons that are firing, that are always there, that we know what's going on outside our body, like a foot away. But when you start to, let's call it awaken or just become more conscious, now that becomes a conscious piece of information. So when those conscious pieces of information start to come in, you know, then we feel more part of everything.
Well, that's a perfect way to describe integration. And it's, I don't know if it's something that you can really talk through. It's just, it's kind of like learning a new language through immersion, where you're not trying to learn it. All of a sudden you just wake up one day and you're like, I'm speaking another language. This is weird. You know, you're doing a lot of different things. What keeps you grounded?
Like, I found that doing, like, getting up and at the very least meditating for 5 minutes really works for me. And I think of it this way. It's, I'm giving that time to myself to get, when I get up in the morning, for me, because then I can center myself and feel, okay, what's going on in my body? What's going on in my psyche? What might I need to do in order to be able to show up in the world in a more balanced way? So sometimes I'll do a kundalini yoga kriya. Actually, I talk about all this stuff in my book too. It's like, sometimes I do a kundalini yoga kriya. Sometimes I'll go through phases where I'm like, okay, I need to add cold showers to this, because cold shower will actually help me become more aware, awake, grounded, etc. But really, a morning practice is so unique to each individual, and there are different things that people can try. I mean, some people actually just, they lie down and they do breathing meditation. Some people, reading a spiritual book, I found works as well. And those things have worked for me during different periods of my life. But for me, like this morning, I was actually so excited about this and about my book, and that I was like, I'm almost too excited to sit and meditate, but I'm going to make myself, I sat for 5 minutes just breathing, because I do these long, deep breathings, you know, where you breathe in the breath for, I think it's like 6 or 7 seconds, and then hold, and then exhale, and then hold, and that calms my brain down. And then after that, I was like, okay, I still need to do more. And I did something called a brief sat kriya, which is a kundalini yoga kriya, and I did that for 3 minutes. So it was kind of a shortcut, you know, I should have done more. But that's what I did this morning. And actually that reminds me of something I wanted to talk about for a second. About permission to be in the world and be fully human. Now, one of the things that I've really found is that all these magical doorways that I thought were just available in the spirit world and my meditating actually are right here in this three-dimensional reality. Like, this three-dimensional reality is not just 3 dimensions. There's so many other things going on if you pay attention. It's like, then you can actually get to the point of going, oh my God, am I in virtual reality? And am I in a simulation? Because it gets really freaking trippy.
Pia's gonna like that comment. we talk about engaging in the simulation all the time. When you really
Yes,
look, it's like the spirit world is overlaid. It's
it
all
is.
connected.
It is 100% connected. I mean, every single thing is part of the spirit world, and that's something that I have really come to learn. And it's just a matter of, I see Pia's comment. I was laughing. I love it. That everything is spiritual. There's nothing that's not spiritual. It's like everything is God. And I actually love what the how the Islamic religion looks at this, and it's there is no God but God. Nothing is not God. It's our perspective, and it's I mean, every little molecule is, there's nothing that's separate. And to me, like, you know, how am I being fully human, and what is spiritual and what is not? For me, my rule of thumb, especially during the times when I don't feel very psychic, or if I'm not feeling very connected, I'm like, okay, I don't know where my guidance went. I'm having one of those times. At least I know if I'm being kind and compassionate, that is my rule of thumb. It's because kindness and compassion, that is breathing through the love of the universe through me in the best way that I know how at the moment to express that. I mean, and sometimes I fail miserably because I hold and cut off from expressing love through my own triggers, etc., or not being able to see a situation clearly. But if I use that for my rule of thumb, I realize, you know, it's okay, like, to be in the world and to be fully human. You know, and some of the most spiritually based people I have known, let me tell you, the most tapped in people. I mean, people who can do things like, you know, like there was this Tai Chi master that I knew. I mean, he drank, he smoked, he swore. I mean, but some of the stuff he could do just blew my mind. It was amazing to me. And I've had so many situations like that. We don't only have time to get into that. I just realized I should probably stop talking. It's already 10:50.
Well, no, what you're talking about has been on my mind a lot lately, because I think there's a stereotype that may be a little bit of a psyop, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's not even real. I mean, you look at the Sufi masters, you know, it's like they're not participating in life. They're fully participating in life. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's about being, you know, now to get back to like being a badass spiritual warrior. It's like anybody who is in the world being spiritually connected. I mean, that takes some grit. It takes some grit to be in the world and get knocked around and go, okay, but I still have this intense love of God and the divine, and I am going to get back there no matter what. Mm-hmm. Yes. And I know that every person on this webinar feels that way. Mm-hmm. You know, we're willing to battle our demons. We're willing to do what it takes to clear the path so we can show up. You know, it's just being fully present in the world, and we should give ourselves more credit, you know, and allow ourselves more permission to be human and realize, you know, we're imperfect, we're human. It doesn't mean we're not spiritual.
Yeah. It's very easy to go into judgment and to want to fight the world, right? Yeah. How have you really come to terms with that? And I know we're all on that same journey, right?
Yeah. You know, I had this experience, one of the more expansive spiritual experiences, where I remember I was driving along and I saw the sky, and it was like so beautiful. I lived in New Mexico then, and the sunsets are amazing. And I thought, oh, the sky loves the earth. And it was just one thought that came to me. And through that one thought, all of a sudden, this whole perspective opened up to me of the divine orchestration of everything and the perfection of everything. And that everything is happening exactly as it should. And I thought about that, I'm like, how could that be, you know? But there was just this overarching knowing that I still go back to, of everything is happening as it should. And, you know, there are a lot of things in the world that are wrong with the world, because people are being treated very unfairly, and it's the environment, and, you know, and if we just focus on that, it can be insanely depressing. But I really feel like if I'm doing my part, then even the smallest things I do will have the proper ripple effect, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in the divine dance. Mm. And so that's how I personally come to peace with that. You know, and granted, of course, I think there's some a-holes out there, you know? It's like, of course, I'm not going to sit there and go, you know, what's happening now? Oh, like, why would they do that? That is so stupid. You know, of course, I'm still going to get up in arms about stuff like that. But it's like, what cause or how are we individually contributing? Because we can't contribute to everything. But I do believe that if we're doing what we really deeply feel called to do, you never know that just one interaction you have with somebody can actually have a ripple effect that will end up changing the world. It can give someone the encouragement they need in order to solve, you know, the whole problem of global warming. You just don't know. A smile to someone could do that. Mm-hmm. So I do believe we're all doing our part.
That's really good. I love that. Very good. And we're really tying up the story in perfect timing. This is just wonderful. So what I'd like to do, Corinne, is for those who are not listening live, because for everybody who's here, we're going to have a real in-depth Q&A after I stop recording. So hold tight with your questions, because we had some really good ones come in that I'd like for you to have Corinne answer in a more intimate setting. But what I'd like to do is quickly talk about how people can get in touch with you. I know that your book is something that we want to talk about, and everybody who attended live is going to be getting a free copy of that, which I'm so excited about. And then also you have, I mean, I know that you support people as part of your career through this process, and you have a really cool course about how people can be supported in becoming a badass spiritual warrior. So can you tell us about that?
Yes, absolutely. So the course itself was born out of, and so I do some work with the Emerging Sciences Foundation as well, and I did this sort of like together with them, like some of the proceeds of my course go to them as well, because I wanted there to be one place where people could get information that would be helpful on Kundalini awakenings, because I saw so much misinformation out there, and it really bothered me. And I was like, I just can't stand it. I mean, honestly, it was more about, I just can't stand this anymore. I need to put this out there, because I have people call me and ask me the same questions, and I like to share the information I find, and, you know, let people, you know, come to their own conclusions as well. But that's why I put the course together.
Just what's available in the course. I just put the link for everybody here, and I will be sharing that to people who watch afterwards. But it's an online course, and it's kind of a at-home study sort of situation.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Exactly. There are, I don't remember exactly, but I think there are about 10 modules. Each module has, you know, some video instructions. Some of it is, you know, we talk about everything from what is a Kundalini awakening, Kundalini syndrome, dark night of the soul, also Kundalini in the workplace, like how can you integrate your new spiritual perspective in the workplace, Kundalini and creativity. So each module has a video lesson. I assign homework, and actually some of the people who have taken my course, I've also done coaching with them. And, you know, it's amazing to me, like how robust the course is, the feedback I get from people, and people actually do the homeworks, and it really helps you build habits that will end up supporting you over time. So really that was my goal, and also to help people, like, you know, here's some specific Kundalini yoga kriyas that you can use, you know, for instance, to strengthen your solar plexus, or, you know, strengthen your energy field. So I put all that type of information in there for people. And
it's incredible, because people really need a structure. I'm going through this because I'm learning all these things on my own. I'm like, I just want a tribe that I can go through this with.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that it helps people, you know, find one place where they can get a lot of information that'll be useful. And then also there are links to all kinds of other information, so people can continue to learn on their own and build their own knowledge base. Like I even had one person say, I want to take your course, but gee, I think I'd actually like to write a book on the stuff you have in your course. Would that be okay? And I'm like, have at it. To me, the more people get the information and spread the information, the better.
That's how we continue to upgrade everything.
Yeah.
It's all about creating the collective source.
Yeah.
How beautiful. I know that you're so passionate about helping people through this process, and really that's what I think ultimately is awakening is about, is to come to a place where you can hold the hands of people who are a little bit behind you. Because this is such a fascinating evolutionary process that we're going through. So I really honor you and everything that you're creating, and how you showed up today. Really good story. So I put the link out for this course. I hope a lot of people take advantage of it. And we're going to move into our private Q&A, but Corinne, do you have any final words of wisdom for those who might be listening, and for those who feel like they may have been triggered by a spiritual energy or force that's kind of creating expansion in ways that are sort of out of control, or they're just trying to ground it?
Yeah, the first thing is you're not alone. We have each other. And Sarah, I'm really grateful that you put this group together. It's so, so needed. And the other thing is self-care during this time is underrated. It's like, just do self-care. Just know that if you're feeling like crap and you just need to go get a massage and watch a movie, you will spiritually bounce back into a greater sense of expansion. And just trust the process. And also, if you feel like you need a therapist to help you work through some of the PTSD stuff that comes up, that it can help expedite the process. And that's what I found, to just know it's part of the process, and you're on the right path, finding ways to take care of your energy field, to strengthen your energy field. Actually, that to me is like a really, really big one. Do what you can for that, and, just nurture yourself. So those are the pieces.
Beautiful. And that's what we really embrace in our support meetings for Awakening Anonymous. So thank you so much. Everybody who's here live, stick around because we're going to do a private Q&A for about 30 minutes. And thank you, Corinne. We'll be distributing the links to your resources. And of course, wilddivinebliss.org is where you can find our featured storyteller for today. So thank you, everybody, and much love.